When I think of Wizards, my mind tends to drift to games like Gauntlet, Hero Quest, and even Key to the Kingdom. Fantastical worlds where magic is a natural part of life and excitement is hiding around every corner. It doesn't tend to drift to this. This is the Game Wizard, a handheld LCD console launched by Microgames of America and released in various colours and tie-ins from 1991 onwards. Now, this wasn't MGA's first outing. Their exploits into the world of LCD are numerous and illustrious, including such wonders as Ghostbusters 2, Turtle Mania, and Mission Impossible. In fact, MGA, having been founded in 1979 and originally incorporated as ABC International Traders in 1982, had made a business out of importing and distributing name-brand consumer electronics. By their own admission, in 1987, they obtained exclusive rights to sell Nintendo handheld LCD games in the US, paving way for various licensing deals, some of which we'll see on the Game Wizard. Of course, the difference between most shoddy LCD games and the Game Wizard is the interchangeable cartridges, which arguably makes it a console rather than a throwaway LCD device. It's prominently emboldened over the back of the packaging. All cartridges can be used with any Game Wizard unit. You can collect them all and trade them with your friends. Nice. But to find the Game Wizard's roots, we have to start in 1991 with the vanilla variety. This initial outing shipped with the games Soccer, Bomb Finder and Invader, and clearly trying to pose as a poor man's Game Boy. I can only assume their licensing deal with Nintendo had expired at this point. This cheap LCD game masquerading as a more advanced console could be either your ticket to acceptance alongside your Game Boy owning friends, or if you had terrible friends, your ticket to even more torment, suffering and despair than you had before. Unfortunately, we weren't excluded from this fun in the UK either. Over here, Grandstand, who is really the UK's electronic importing equivalent of MGA, distributed the same device. But given they already had a Game Wizard console of their own, which is actually rather nice and a similar concept, featuring these notched plastic cards which select different games and reflect them off the silver card's surface, we got the Game Player, bundled with Football, Minefield and Invader, the same games just with slightly different names. This was a handheld in the right place at the right time to make it appealing. I mean, it's a gimmick, it's a cash-in. It's not a real console as such because you can't buy the games separately, but it's for all these reasons that I find it so damn endearing. I mean, where else do you get a cartridge with a built-in screen? Okay, yeah, we've got the MB Microvision, the Palmtex Super Micro, not to mention all these. Yeah, this wasn't a new concept even in 1991, but it's still pretty interesting. Because surely nothing lives up to the pure portability and gameplay of the Game Player. We've got a power button, a sound on-off switch, a directional pad, and 2 spanking action buttons. We've even got a grip on the right-hand side for serious game-playing action. Let's pop in our 2 AA batteries and get cracking. Oh yes, this is really something. Football consists of preventing footballs from getting past your player. The ball will come at you in a rather drunken fashion, you just have to anticipate where it's going to go, and then boot it using either of the action buttons. It's not going to change your life, but you might play it for a few minutes. Invader then, well, it's a Space Invaders ripoff, as you might expect, and for an LCD title it plays reasonably well. You fire by pressing the A button, which expels the slowest projectile you're ever likely to see towards the alien invaders, so timing is therefore key, as by the time your bullet gets to the top of the screen, those pesky critters will either have moved left or right, seemingly at random. More enjoyable than football, but still pretty crap. So how about Minefield? Well, I've tasked the console god Kwang to play this one, mainly because my console didn't come with the game. And as you can see... yeah. But all is not lost, because a few years later, MGA started to reuse the original plastic shell and makeup for a range of branded releases, and it really was quite a range. Along with Mighty Morphin Power Rangers sets, Universal Monsters and All-Star Sports, there were more obscure packs like Fairy Tale Fun, Bible Stories, which is incredibly rare, and even a range of Barbie 2-in-1 packs, which, although based on the same technology, used a different design because, I don't know, girls preferred the Tiger LCD look to the Game Boy look, apparently. Most of these packs came out between 1994 and 1996. I mean, this was now the era of the Sony PlayStation and Sega Saturn, and although the technology was surely looking a bit long in the tooth, the licensing deals helped sell their cheap appeal. Here's the 2-game variant of the Star Wars pack. You can also get this in a 3-game variant including X-Wing Attack, but the important thing is this is a fully licensed set. On the back you can see some of the other packs available to lucky or unlucky kids, however you look at it. Alongside the kit we get a warranty card and instruction manual, not that you'll really need it. I love it how they've put a sticker of X-Wing Attack on the back of the casing, even though you don't get X-Wing Attack with this pack. Still, it makes it look better in the shop. We've also only got one action button now, even though they've tried to make it look like 2 on the pack. It makes sense because in none of the original games was there a requirement for 2 buttons. Absolutely zero. But it did make it look more like a Game Boy, so there's that. The first game is Princess Leia's Rescue. We have the usual irritating LCD game sounds to accompany our romp across the screen. We have to jump on platforms and avoid people by jumping over their heads. Yes, this is definitely the worst game of the 2. Darth Vader's Revenge actually is quite compelling. As Luke Skywalker, you need to climb up and down these ladders, steal guns off C-3PO, and then use them to blast Darth Vader. That's more than one gameplay mechanic, and it really helps. I could imagine playing this on the bus and being entertained for the entire journey from Longwater Retail Park all the way to Norwich City Centre. What a blast. Of course, I'd have to turn off the sound. I mean, I don't want to get an ASBO. For X-Wing, Kwang is again going to show us the ropes on his triple pack, the jammy bastard. Yeah, it's your typical fighter-style LCD game. If you ask me, they should have put that in the double pack instead of Leia's sodding rescue. But if you're going to make something crap, you might as well go all out, I guess. The next version I have is Mask. This one actually came with a carry case which could hold 2 games in the front and the unit in the back. It seems these carry cases came with the earlier licensed models, probably before they realised that no one gave a crap about them. I have one game for this garishly coloured variant, The Mask's Escape, but it appears this device is no longer up to playing the games to their full potential. You can see it's trying to work, but both the sound and screen are barely perceptible. How about if we plug it into the Star Wars casing? Yes, much better. Or not. Now this is an interesting game. Playing The Mask, your job is to escape this maze, filled with villains and walls. It's... no, it's not. It gets boring incredibly quickly, and it's crap. But it's more of an original idea than your typical LCD game. Now, I know what you're thinking. We've seen the Game Wizard titles are cross-compatible, but do Game Player titles work on this machine and vice versa? Well, the Game Wizard carts don't actually fit into the Game Player as they have this additional bulk on the back. The Game Player titles do fit into the Wizard, but nothing happens when you power on. So best we take them apart to see what's going on. Starting with a Game Player cartridge, I was stunned to find that it doesn't actually contain any logic. Here we've just got a set of pins going straight to the LCD screen, which means all the logic is held in the handheld device itself. And yes, behind these discrete components, we've got a chip blobbed onto that circuit board. However, and this is much more interesting than I expected it to be, the Game Wizard cartridges have their own logic on board, with only a few discrete components shoved into the handheld's casing, so it becomes evident that the original console was never supposed to be expanded. You got 3 games and that's all you had. But realising the potential for having a pseudo handheld console, they moved the logic into the cartridges for the later Game Wizard machines and opened up a whole new world. Presumably this bulk on the back is to stop you ramming a cartridge in an original handheld and pitting logic against logic in a battle to the end. Either that, or it's just needed to fit the extra components in. Fascinating stuff nonetheless. As you can imagine, as the 90s rolled on, and with new handhelds appearing, proper handhelds that is, the Game Wizard line died out, with most probably ending up in the bin. And that's a bit of a sad end, because frankly the controls on these things, they're responsive, collision detection is great, I can't fault the programming, and most of these games were on sale as standalone items, so, they work, but they're just not varied enough to make the whole experience worthwhile. If you're a normal person who doesn't absolutely love dated crap technology, like I do, then you're unlikely to care about 3 games instead of 1 because they all feel like exactly the same game to play, with the same sounds, the same lack of end goal, and the same meaningless stomp into blissful nothingness. Despite MGA's efforts, these still would have felt like chuckaway items in the 90s alongside your Flipsiders games, Ring Raiders, and serial bike spokes. There's a few knocking about on eBay still, but really they seem quite elusive these days, especially that Bible and Fairy Tale variant. So if you see them, they're worth picking up as an interesting, collectible curiosity. MGA Entertainment still exists to this day. They were responsible for those Bratz toys and things like that, whereas Grandstand sadly faded into obscurity. I guess their downfall was not continuing the Game Wizard line like MGA did. I guess that's also why British kids were happier than American kids in the 90s. And our lunches weren't packed with sugar. But I mean, just imagine how disappointed you would have been in the 90s if your parents bought you this instead of a Game Boy. It doesn't even bear thinking about. Thanks for watching. Have a great evening.